mocked him for being ugly, and that he pays for everything. I didn't know he'd get revenge. Hello, Reddit. I'm here because I really messed up, and I never thought it would end up like this. Honestly, I've been putting off writing this because I don't even know where to start. I've thought about this a lot, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it until now. So here it goes. Before I start, I want to make it clear, I know I was wrong. I completely acknowledge that, and I'm not trying to justify anything. I just need to vent, and maybe, in some way, find a way to fix what I broke. Okay, let's rewind a bit. This all started a while ago when I met a guy named Jason. At the time, I didn't think much of it. He wasn't exactly what I would call my type, but honestly, I didn't think that was a huge deal. He was sweet, we got along well enough, and he treated me with a level of kindness that I didn't really know how to handle at first. I wasn't used to guys being that generous, especially when they barely knew me. I remember thinking, wow, this guy is different. He's genuine, he listens, and he actually cares about what I have to say. And for a while, that was enough. But let's be real here. The truth is, Jason wasn't just kind of caring, he was loaded. And yeah, I know how that sounds. I know it sounds shallow, and honestly, I kind of regret it now. But the truth is, the money was a huge reason why I stayed in the relationship, even though he wasn't my type. It's uncomfortable to admit, but I feel like I need to be honest about how I got into this mess. I mean, this guy had a really good job, a stable career, and was financially set for the foreseeable future. And I'm not talking about just scraping by. I'm talking about comfort, the kind of comfort where you never have to worry about where your next paycheck is coming from. This isn't something I would typically admit, but I feel like you need to understand the context of how and why I got involved with him. At the time, I didn't see it as a problem. I saw it as a benefit, something that made him stand out. And now, looking back, I'm just realizing how fucked up it was. When we first started dating, I thought, okay, this isn't so bad. He checked a lot of boxes for me. Sure, he wasn't the hottest guy I'd ever met. He wasn't the kind of guy who would make people turn their heads when he walked into a room, but he wasn't bad looking either. And I guess that's when I started justifying it. He has the lifestyle I want, I told myself. He's a nice guy, and I didn't really see the danger in mixing the two. I don't want to sound like one of those people who only goes for money or status, because that's not me. But at that point in my life, I wasn't exactly looking for someone to struggle with either. I had been through a lot, and I was tired of dealing with people who didn't have their shit together. Jason, on the other hand, had it all figured out. He seemed like the perfect package, so generous, so stable, and so willing to give me the life I thought I deserved. At first, I told myself it wasn't just about the money, but as time went on, I realized I was lying to myself. I loved the way he could take me out to expensive dinners, spoil me with gifts, and send me on trips I could only dream of. I loved the way he would always pay for everything, never once making me feel bad about it. Dates, paid for, gifts, always coming my way. Trips? You bet. It felt like I hit the jackpot. Everything I wanted was right there at my fingertips. And I didn't have to fight for it. I didn't have to compromise. I didn't have to negotiate. He just gave. I thought I had life all figured out. I thought I could have it all. Someone who treated me like a queen, someone who could spoil me without hesitation, someone who would always put me first no matter what. I mean, who wouldn't want that, right? The perfect partner who showers you with gifts, attention, and affection, who bends over backward just to make you happy. It sounded like a dream, and for a while it really did feel like one. But I never stopped to think about myself. What was I giving in return? I never paused to consider what kind of person I was becoming or how I was treating him in return. Especially since my best friend supported me, this isn't all on her, but I have to admit, my friend had a huge influence on how I started seeing things. She'd always talk about how I was too good for him, like way too good, and she'd say it so casually, like it was obvious. She'd say it over and over, especially when we were out, having drinks or just talking. At the time, I didn't even think much of it, but then it started sinking in. Slowly but surely, I started believing it. And that's when things started to go downhill. I started to think that because he was paying for everything, constantly buying me things, it was because he knew he was lucky to have me. Like, He was overcompensating for the fact that he wasn't enough for me, and that's where I got it all wrong. I didn't see it at the time, but I had gotten this idea stuck in my head that I deserved to be treated like a queen, that I was somehow entitled to all the attention, all the gifts, all the affection, just because I was me. I mean, isn't that what love is supposed to be? Someone putting you on a pedestal, making you feel like the most important person in the world? At least that's what I convinced myself. And the more I fed into that idea, the more it became this twisted expectation. It's not easy to admit, but I was selfish. It's crazy how something so small, like my friend's little comments, could completely shift how I viewed the relationship. I mean, I went from feeling lucky to have someone who was thoughtful and generous to thinking, well, of course he's spoiling me. He should spoil me. I deserve it. And I wasn't just taking things for granted, I started to expect them. I didn't have to ask for anything anymore because I just assumed he'd do it. If we went to a restaurant, I'd sit there waiting for him to pick up the check, without even thinking twice. If we went on a trip, I'd just expect him to cover everything. Gifts? I didn't even have to hint at it. I just waited for them to appear. I expected it like it was my right or something. If he didn't do enough, I'd complain. If he didn't spend enough, I'd sulk. It was always about me and what I thought I deserved, and I never once thought about what he deserved too. Treated him less like a partner and more like a provider. I didn't see that I was becoming someone who was only interested in what I could get out of the relationship rather than what I could give. I mean, sure, I'd say thank you every once in a while, but that's not enough. I wasn't showing him any real appreciation. And you know what's even worse? I actually thought I was the one putting in all the effort. I started to think that because I was me, because I was so great, that I was the one who was making the relationship work. I convinced myself that I deserved everything he was giving me, and the more I thought that way, the less I thought about how he might be feeling. I don't blame my friend for all of it, but I can see now how her words influenced me. She made me believe that I was too good for him, that I deserved to be spoiled, and that's what started it all. But the truth is, it wasn't her fault. It was mine. I allowed myself to believe that I was entitled to something that I didn't truly deserve. And in the end, that mindset is what tore my relationship apart. I wasn't just taking from him, I was mocking him. It started off small, just like everything else. Little jokes here and there about how I was out of his league, about how lucky he was to have someone like me. I honestly don't know why I started doing that. I think it just became so normal to me. I mean, they were just jokes, right? As time went on, my little jokes about him started to get meaner. I didn't even notice it at first. The jokes weren't just harmless teasing anymore. They became more cutting, more mocking. And honestly, I can't even pinpoint exactly when it shifted. I think it was gradual. Like I got so comfortable in this dynamic that I stopped treating it with the respect it deserved. I started making fun of him for doing all the things I had come to expect. First, like it was his job or like I was some prize. It's weird, right? You go through life thinking everything is fine, thinking you're just joking around, and then one day it hits you. You look back and realize how much you've hurt someone, and you feel like a complete jerk. Do you ever have one of those moments where you just go, wow, I was an asshole? Yeah, that's exactly how I feel now. I was an asshole. And I hate that I was that way. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. All I can do is own up to it and try to do better. Because when I look back at how I treated him, how I made him feel, man, I cringe. The mocking just kept getting worse. And I didn't even realize how bad it was getting until he started speaking up about it. He told me it wasn't cool anymore, that he didn't like it, and it really made him uncomfortable. I didn't take him seriously, though. I just thought he was being dramatic. I brushed it off, told him he was overreacting, and that it was all just a joke. He couldn't take a joke, right? I thought it was harmless. But honestly, that was probably the first time I should have taken a step back and thought about how he was feeling. Instead, I just kept pushing it, and as time went on, he started changing. At first, it was subtle. He stopped putting as much effort into looking good when we went out. Little things like that. He wasn't as enthusiastic about our time together, and I couldn't figure out why. He wasn't even spending as much on me as he used to, and it bugged me. Honestly, I was annoyed by it. I kept thinking, what's his problem? Why is he acting so distant? I mean, I still didn't get it. I just thought maybe he was tired or stressed out about something. But the more I pushed, the more he pulled back. It all came to a head one night during dinner when I brought up getting a new purse. I really wanted it, and I expected him to just agree like he always did, but he didn't. Instead, he said I already had enough purses. That pissed me off. I mean, how dare he say no? That wasn't like him at all. So I pushed it, and it turned into a full-blown argument. I kept going and going until I said something I really shouldn't have. He accused me of only being interested in him for his money, of just taking and taking without giving anything back. I snapped. I told him he was ugly and that he should be grateful that I was even with him, that I was even taking from him. I told him he was lucky I was still around to let him spoil me, that he should just be happy I wasn't looking elsewhere. The words just came out in a blur of anger, but I immediately regretted them. It wasn't even about the purse anymore. I didn't mean any of it, but I said it anyway. I stormed off to bed, angry and frustrated, but more than anything, I was confused. I thought he was the one who was being unreasonable. I convinced myself that I was just trying to get what I deserved, that I had every right to expect certain things from him. The whole thing left a bad taste in my mouth. The next day, after the argument, I knew I should have done something about it. I should have sat him down, apologized properly, and actually talked through everything. But instead, I just kind of brushed it off. I gave a quick sorry, thinking that would be enough. I was just hoping everything would blow over like it usually did. I think that's when he started checking out emotionally. It was like, after I crossed that line, he just stopped caring. He didn't say anything about it at first, but I could feel it. A couple of weeks later, I graduated from college. I was already thinking ahead about moving in with him. The place where I had lived during college wasn't affordable anymore, especially since I was no longer going to school. It was just me and 3 of my friends living together, and none of us could afford rent on our own once everyone moved out. So I thought, hey, why not just move in with my boyfriend? That's the next step, right? It seemed like a good idea at the time. So I moved in. But just 2 weeks later, everything blew up. Out of nowhere, he kicked me out. He said he had been holding on to this anger since the argument, and that he was done with me. He told me I was toxic, and that he couldn't believe he had stayed with me for so long after everything. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea it was coming. He didn't even let me take most of my things. He handed me my essentials like clothes and toiletries, but anything else, purses, jewelry, anything he had bought for me, he refused to give back. He said he bought them for me with his money, and that I hadn't appreciated it, so he wasn't letting me take anything. I couldn't believe it. I was crying. I was begging him to let me take the things I'd gotten used to, but he just locked the door in my face. It was like everything had been ripped away from me in an instant. I didn't know what to do. I headed straight to my best friend's house, but of course she wasn't home, so I had no choice but to go to my parents' house. I've been here for a few days now, trying to reach out to him, but he's not picking up, not answering any of my messages. I feel desperate. I feel like I have nothing, and it's all my fault. I just graduated and don't even have a job lined up because he always said I didn't need to rush. And now look at me. I regret everything. I get it now. I see how toxic I was. I see how much I took him for granted, and how I didn't appreciate anything he did for me. I should have listened when he said he wasn't okay with how I was treating him, but I didn't. I've been trying to reach him, trying to explain that I'm sorry and that I get it now, but he's not budging. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know if there's even a way to fix this. It feels like everything I did has led to this point, and I just don't know how to fix it. I need to fix it. I need him to understand that I'm sorry and that I want to make things right, but he's not even responding. I'm stuck here, feeling like I've lost everything, and it's all my fault. I just need him to know that I've changed, that I get it now, and I don't know how to show him that. What do I do, Reddit? Update. Hello, Reddit. First of all, I get it. I totally get it. I'm a gold digger. I know. You all really went at me in the comments, huh? I came here just looking for some advice on how to fix my relationship, not for a roasting session. But hey, I guess I deserve it. I know now that it's my fault. I was wrong, and I can't deny it. I've made so many mistakes. It sucks, honestly, it really does. But whatever. I understand now. I was toxic. I was selfish. I was a fool. Thanks for nothing, Reddit. I guess you were right all along. So, my boyfriend, well, ex-boyfriend now, has officially broken up with me. and he's not coming back. At all. I kept trying to reach out to him after I made that post. I thought maybe I could fix things. I didn't know how to stop. But of course the post went viral. Of course it did. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. It's just me, right? A mess. A total disaster. Anyway, somehow one of his friends saw my post. They put 2 and 2 together and probably mentioned it to him. Next thing I know, he DM'd me. And trust me, that message hurt. He told me how stupid I was for even thinking he'd take me back after everything I had done. He said at least I was honest in the post. I'll give myself that. He told me to look in the mirror and realize just how materialistic and horrible I was. He said we were done and that I should stop contacting him because it wasn't doing me any favors. He also said that he's going to sell my things for cheap and donate the money. Can you even believe that? He told me that someone as ungrateful as me didn't deserve any of the things he got me, but those things were for me. I'm still in shock over it, honestly. He said he didn't want me to have them, that he had gotten them with his money, and he was going to sell them. I mean, who does that? I get that we're breaking up, but to go to that extreme, I was blindsided. And it's not even like he's trying to be nice about it. He doesn't want to return them or let me have them. No, he's just going to take everything and sell it for pennies, like none of it even mattered. It hurts so bad. I keep thinking about all the memories attached to those things, the gifts he gave me, and now he's just throwing them away like it doesn't even matter. And that's it. That's the end of that. My relationship is over. I know it's my fault. I've been a selfish idiot, and now it's over. It hurts, though. It hurts so much. For some reason, after all this time, I've become so attached to him, I can't even explain it. It's like I didn't realize how much I needed him until he was actually gone. And to make things worse, my so-called best friend turned into a total snake. Yeah, she's an ex-friend now. Honestly, friends are fake. I'm learning that the hard way. So, let me tell you what happened. After everything went down with my ex, I reached out to my best friend. She was the first person I told. I needed advice, support, anything. I mean, she was my best friend, right? I thought she'd be there for me. So, I told her about the whole situation, about how I was trying to make things right. She said she was on my side, that he'd come around, that I just needed to wait it out. But apparently, while she was consoling me, she was also plotting behind my back. She asked me for my ex's number. At first, I thought that was weird. Why would she need it? I told her no, I wasn't going to give it to her. It felt wrong. I didn't want her reaching out to him. I didn't want him to think I was getting people to harass him. But she didn't listen. She didn't care. She went ahead and messaged him on Instagram, talking about how she liked him, how she thought he was cute, and all that other shit. What the actual fuck? She was literally trying to steal my ex from me. He sent me the screenshots. I saw the messages. I was furious. I couldn't believe it. I called her up, demanding an explanation. And her response? She said that since he was single now, it was fair game. She said I was the one who fumbled him. I couldn't even wrap my head around it. This was my best friend, the person I thought I could count on. And she was going behind my back, trying to swoop in on my ex. What the fuck? You're supposed to be my friend, not my enemy. So yeah, I cut her off, blocked her. I'm honestly glad my ex didn't give her the time of day. He didn't even entertain her. But still, the whole thing made me realize how messed up everything is. It feels like everything is falling apart for me. I don't know what to do anymore. I've lost my relationship, and now I've lost a friend. I feel unmotivated. I feel so low. I'm in such a bad place right now. I can't stop thinking about him, about how I screwed everything up. I don't even know how to get out of this funk. I'm depressed, and I don't know where to go from here. I've become so attached to him, and now that it's over, I can't even figure out what to do with myself. It's like I'm stuck in this hole, and I don't know how to climb out. My family, my parents, even my siblings, they're all pointing fingers at me like I'm the one who wrecked everything. They aren't even sugarcoating it. They've all told me it's my fault. Like, I get it, okay? I know I messed up. I know I made some terrible decisions, and I regret every single one of them. But to have everyone turn on me like this, it's crushing. They've all said how I blew it, how I screwed up the best thing I had. And I can't even argue with them because deep down I know they're right. It's funny in a tragic way. You think you're just having fun. You think everything is going great. And then one day you wake up and realize you've been taking someone for granted this whole time. And by the time you see it, it might be too late. That's the hard part. You can't take back the words, the actions, or the mindset that hurt someone, but you can learn from it. So now I know better. Now I see how messed up I was. And all I can do is hope that if I ever get another chance at something like this, I won't make the same mistakes again.